I personally have never evicted a person for anything other than non-payment, but that doesn't mean that a person couldn't get evicted for anything other than non-payment. Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today we are tackling an embarrassing but really important topic, which is near and dear to my heart, and that's the eviction process. Whether you're facing an eviction or just want to be informed, this video guide will guide you through each step from start to finish so you understand what's happening. This is a no judgment zone, so let's get started. What is an eviction? I'm happy you asked. So evictions happen every day, and they're unfortunate when they do happen. I'm speaking from experience. So before we get too deep into this, I want to share a disclaimer. I am not an attorney, so the advice that I'm giving is based on my personal experience as a landlord, as well as a person who experienced an eviction before. All right, so when I said this is a no judgment zone, I meant every bit of that. That being said, let's define what an eviction is. An eviction is a legal process where a landlord removes a tenant or whoever's renting from the rental property. This usually happens because you either didn't pay your rent, or there was a lease violation, or some other legal reason. More people in the house, whatever it might need to be. Okay, understanding this is important as it sets the stage for what's to come next as you go through the eviction process. I personally have never evicted a person for anything other than non-payment, but that doesn't mean that a person couldn't get evicted for anything other than non-payment. So the eviction process it typically begins when the landlord sends you a notice, okay? And this notice is going to outline the reasons for the eviction. So the time frame and the time frame that you had to respond. So it's important to read this notice carefully and understand your rights as a consumer. In many places, landlords have to provide you with a specific notice period before they can file the eviction. You can find this information in your lease, okay? You can always pull up your landlord tenant code for your state if you need to see what's legal or illegal, because sometimes tenants don't know, and sometimes landlords do things right and sometimes they don't. But this will help you so that you don't have to worry so much, okay? So don't hesitate to Google it. So when you get your notice, typically they're going to send it to your house or post it on your door. When you respond to the notice, it's important that when you receive it, that you understand what options you have. You can either agree with the notice, which is do nothing. You can negotiate with your landlord, which is reaching out to them, or else you can dispute it. Maybe you don't feel like you owe that much. So if you choose to dispute it, you may need to gather some evidence and prepare the information for a court hearing, because you will have to go to court. It's advisable to seek legal advice at this stage if possible if you're not comfortable. If you have space to respond for a complaint, do it. Because if you don't, then the court is just going to go with whatever the landlord says. So if you say nothing, then the court knows nothing. Trust me, when you're in the heat of an eviction, you will be super emotional. So you want to respond to the complaint or seek an attorney to help you write one, because you only really want to bring forth facts, okay? The judge doesn't care if it hurt your feelings that you're being evicted. They want to know why you're being evicted and if this is true. If you didn't pay, they want to know why. Maybe you had a baby. Maybe you were laid off. They don't know if you don't know. Side note and a tip. Again, I used to be a property manager. I can say this because most of the times if I evicted anybody, it was because they didn't pay. If they paid, then we went ahead and did what we needed to do. So the other thing that I want to advise you is when you're in this process, don't get mad at the landlord and decide that you want to damage the property, because they're going to get their money and it's going to impact you long term. So I know you might, again, be emotional and wound up, but don't go damaging the property, because they're going to get their monies. One thing is for certain, they're getting their monies one way or another. So the next step is you have to end up going to court. So when you're in court, if the eviction proceeds and you don't pay or whatever, a court hearing will be scheduled. You will both be notified, both the landlord and the tenant. They do have to post it, so they have to notarize it, make sure it's good. So, or not notarize it, but certify it. Make sure to bring all relevant documents. Can't say this enough. Your lease agreement, payment records, any correspondence that you have, receipts, clear checks, whatever it might be. This goes back to keeping it fact-based. Remember I said that. The judge will make a decision based off the evidence presented, not your feelings. Evidence, not feelings. Fact-based. Can't say it enough. The next step in this process is going to be the judgment and possession order if it gets that far. So you do have a brief period of time to pay if you're being evicted due to non-payment. The judge will let you know that day that you're at court, so it's not a surprise. If you pay, you stay. If you don't, you won't. So let's assume in this circumstance that a payment isn't made and then you have to move out by a certain date. A sheriff or a cleanup crew will come and put your stuff on the curb. I know it sounds horrible. They're not going to be neat about it. They're going to put it in bags and put it on the curb. From there, the landlord will have possession of the unit again. And as much as this sucks to do and experience, this is what happens. I had to do it with a 3-week-old and a newborn, packing up a house in boxes. I've been on both sides of this experience, and it is the worst. But that's another video for another day. If it's something you want to see, drop it below, and we'll go ahead and go from there. But you can bounce back from evictions and resume life as normal once they're paid. I'm happy to share some tips that I took so that we could become a homeowner in a year. As you know, we purchased our house in under 11 months after our eviction. So it's possible to move on. So with that being said, I want to thank you so much for watching my video on the eviction process. I hope you found this information to be helpful and informative. I don't know who needs it, but I believe that somebody can benefit from this. Remember, understanding your rights and legal steps involved can help make this process significantly different, especially when you're already navigating through a challenging situation. Again, I can't say this enough. I am not an attorney. So the advice that I'm giving in this video is based off of my experience as a landlord and as a person who went through an eviction before. If you have any questions or personal experiences that you feel like you want to share, go ahead and drop them below. Like I said, we are a judgment-free zone around here. We don't judge people, we judge numbers, and I'd love to hear from you. So don't forget to like the video and subscribe and hit that notification button so that you never, ever miss out on any updates of any of my videos. The more you know, the more prepared you can be when you're dealing with these difficult circumstances. And take care. Can't wait to see you in my next video. Have a good one.